welcome to It's All About Life. This is our inaugural podcast. Our series is starting out with creators, inventors, and pivoters. I have with me today Colin Brush. He's the director at Houston Grand Opera. He joined us in January, so he's brand new to Houston. Let me give you a little bit of background on Colin. He was actually in Germany for about 3 years with the ADA Artists and UIA Talent Group. Prior to that, he was at the Washington National Opera for 12 years.
For 8 years. I lived in D.C. for 12 years. Like, you're close. Yeah, that's exactly right. You got it. Anyway, about 8 years, Washington National.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. So you were planning and managing operas, finding the talent. I mean, it's amazing what you've done in talent. And then your education, you were a former Bosch Foundation Fellow, recipient of the Blossom Arts Research Grant, and you have a BA in vocal performance from Carnegie Mellon University, as well as a Master's of Music degree in opera from the University of Maryland. And you speak 4 languages. So, but anyway, I welcome, and I'm so happy. And for the audience, I've been a part of the Houston Grand Opera's trustee for about 15 years. So,
which we're so grateful. Thank you so much.
Well, you're so welcome. And I just have such a passion for what you guys do when it comes to creating and innovating. And of course, thought of you guys as we were putting this together. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey to HGO?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a singer. I'd always, I was really lucky that I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, where there's all of this great opera, symphony, ballet, the music programs at schools are funded in the public schools. And so I just had this rich arts upbringing and lots of access to stuff. So it inspired me to continue with music. Art really became a part of my identity and a part of what I found so wonderful and truthful about the world. So I wanted to study it. And I got, like you said, a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Vocal Performance from Carnegie Mellon. I went to the University of Maryland after that. I worked actually at a sort of like an aptitude testing and counseling center where we advised folks on what kinds of ways of thinking or doing they might find satisfying in their work. And that sort of it sparked sort of this desire to help find and cultivate talent. And right after that, I saw this posting for this job at Washington National Opera. I got it. I started pretty lowly, but, very quickly I rose through the ranks and ended up as artistic administrator. So I was doing a lot of travel to identify the singers for, my bosses would have their priorities of who they wanted to have heard. And I would go out and assess, yes, okay, yeah, that we should hire them, or, oh no, that wasn't so good. Maybe we want to look in a different direction instead. Around the time of the pandemic, I had applied to the Bosch Foundation they have this very prestigious fellowship program that's been going on for 40 years. And I got in, but then because of the pandemic, I had no idea if we'd actually go. In the end, it worked out. I moved there in September of 2020. And indeed, the fellowship was about a year long. First, I worked first we did a language immersion class. So we did 3 months of immersion. And then I worked in a sort of a social project to help build outdoor arts infrastructure during COVID. We took an abandoned gardening school and turned it into a huge community arts center and a place that didn't really have a lot of arts infrastructure. So, and then after that, I decided, everything's opening up, but I wanted to stay. The exact time, I was in contact with a woman named Ana de Archuleta, who had built really a grassroots arts management organization, a roster of really good musicians over the last 20 years. And she wanted someone to join her team. And so I ended up representing her roster in Europe. Eventually we merged with another agency. And that's when HGO reached out to me and said, hey, look, we are looking for a new head of of the HGO Butler studio, which is sort of our apprentice training program for up and coming artists who are entering the opera world. And so our job here is to identify the most promising talents, sort of the people that we think have a unique, interesting artistic perspective and a really, really amazing vocal talent. And then we give them sort of a lot of their first experiences in the big opera world, try to get them in front of as many colleagues as possible and help them build a career internationally from here. So it's a tall order, but we have a long track record here at HGO. We have one of the best studios in the country for training and apprenticeship. We've had a whole host of very, very, very famous alumni come out of here. So I have big shoes to fill, I have to say. But I'm up to the challenge, and it's already been so thrilling and so much fun. And I loved every minute of it so far.
That was amazing. And, just my experience with being involved at HGO is just amazing to look at the number of people that are coming to audition in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
And we were speaking before we started about The Sound of Music, where, 500 children
came to audition just for the children's parts and the children's chorus. I mean, so interesting to see the whole community activated,
I mean, from the community. And it's just, for me, I'm like, well, of course they've got people in the community, but you just don't really think about that when you're in your own community.
Of course, yeah.
And the concert of Ari's is just, I love all the stuff that you guys put on, but that's really impressive because you're getting to see so many new people come through from all over the world.
Yeah.
And
truly, and especially this year, and my hope in future years even more so. Maybe do you mind if I explain what Concert of Art is, since they don't know what that is?
A great thing to do.
So each year, for many years, I think it's 37, don't quote me if I'm wrong, I think it's 37 years now, that we've done what's called the McCollum competition, and named after Eleanor McCollum, who endowed the competition. And it is a competition that has dual purpose. One, it's just an amazing competition that folks want to come and compete for large cash prizes. But also it serves also as a place for us to identify strong candidates to join the Butler studio, to join the Young Artist program that we have here through that competition. So we normally, this year, if you include the competitions that I visited to sort of assess maybe some candidates I wanted to bring, we probably considered about 1,000 applicants for the competition. Of 1,000, we invited 20 semifinalists to Houston. So really just, a very, very, very small number of folks. And of those 20, 8 were our finalists who competed on the stage in the Wortham Center of the Colin Theater in February for $10,000 first prize, $5,000 second prize, $3,000 third prize, and some audience choice prizes. It's this big whirlwind event, and it activates the entire HGO community. I think it's like really it's a favorite among our HGO family of supporters and family members, and it's really just a fun, phenomenal event.
And from an audience perspective, what is fun is we get to participate in voting.
Exactly, you get to vote for audience choice. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, so it's actually
everyone's
fun.
And I always love to talk to people afterwards because they'll say to me, "Oh, I picked 2 of them," or "Oh, I got 3 of them right." Everyone has their picks, and I was happy this year because what I would aim for this time was that it's always no fun if there's always one clear winner, right? If there's always like one person, everyone's like, okay, this got to be it. Well, of course, then it's sort of no fun. So I felt that all 8, you could have justified any of the 8, just depending on what you were looking at. And that was the experience of a lot of the folks that attended. They said, I actually got none of them right this time, but I'm so happy because I still liked all of them and I couldn't decide. So it's such a fun evening and just full of joy. Yeah,
it is. Well, you and I were speaking in prep about, creating and innovating and pivoting.
Yep.
I mean, all companies and organizations are constantly in creation, innovation, and pivoting mode. Clearly, an art company is.
I would hope so.
Yes. And so, I mean, you're innovating in the productions, which is amazing what you do with how you're thinking about the times, the current times and what your audience is looking for. I mean, give us a little bit of a purview of like the theme that, in particular, the let the truth be told, which I love.
Yeah.
That's about being authentic. But then also you were looking at what your audience was looking for and what they wanted to come see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, I mean, I can't speak for Corey Dastor, but Corey Dastor is the general director of the company. She came here in 2021, really full of energy and ideas. And I have to say, I am just so impressed with what she has built. And honestly, what she has built here, the sort of fresh, but yet lovely traditional look at opera. Maybe I don't want to say it that way. It's that we have simultaneously this very innovative but very satisfying traditional look to sort of, to appeal to the wide range of wide types of audiences that we have from Houston. And one thing that I really love that Corey has done is that each season centers around a certain theme. So this year's theme is called "Let the Truth Be Told." So if you look at every single one of the pieces that we've done, one of the main themes is that there was a hidden truth, and now the truth is coming out, and it has to do with people's journey with the truth, and all of this is told through the human voice. So I have our brochure here. It says, "With opera as our guide, let the truth be told." So you can sort of and each piece is so different. Yet I love that we're centering around certain wide themes that are universal to all humanity. I think that's what opera does best, it's so interesting to look at opera through the frame of these wider human truths instead, because the human voice is it is an instrument of, well, it's not always an instrument of truth, but it's something that we can all relate to. And so if we are centering stories based on the human voice and telling the truth through the human voice, I think that's something that everyone can sort of get behind.
Absolutely. And I'm just amazed, while you have the productions here at the opera on stage, there's so many community outreach events where the opera is going to schools, to teach children, all the way to, we were talking about Wheeler Baptist Church, where the opera went there in conjunction with the church, conducted operas. You're going to so many different venues within the community to help show people what the opera's about, and then also include them here.
Yeah, and I mean, this is also, I think one thing I also really like about Corey and our staff and the overall staff here is that they are so invested in making sure that all of Houston is represented on the stage, and also make sure that HGO goes out and services the many different communities. I mean, this is just like the most international, diverse city I've ever seen. It's so great to, go around. You see some food from some sub-region in some country that you probably never heard of before. And it's like you can find anything here, it feels. So, it's so nice to also have the opera company focus so much on engaging with every member of the community as much as they can. And we have this amazing director of community and learning, and she's really an innovator in her field, Jennifer Bowman, and she has spearheaded so many of these wonderful initiatives. And I really feel like they do in the right way. And you were talking about giving voice at Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. That's again centering, with the human voice sort of as the central piece. You see just how much we all have in common. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most successful parts of that particular concert, because wow, it is about the voice, and it's about the stories we can tell and the experiences we can have surrounding the voice.
And, outside of just bringing the Houston community in, I mean, the demographics of the ticket sales. You're saying that, there's demographics where people are internationally coming in when they just see an opera that they want to come see.
Absolutely. I mean, we just did Parsifal, which is this gigantic Wagnerian work. And, if you look at sort of the heat map of where our ticket sales are coming from, the different IP addresses that are buying tickets for our shows, you really have almost, not Antarctica, I don't think, but the rest of the continents are all represented. And we have this great video on our website that just sort of interviews the audiences from our winter repertory period. And there's a guy from, they interview a guy from Germany that came because, he likes to travel to see all the different Wagnerian productions. And so he decided to come to Houston for his first time to see Parsifal, because it's such a rarely done work. It's so difficult to mount. So, when it's done, people really pay attention, and they're like, oh, wow, well, this is an organization I want to see what they're up to. So we really had people from all over, and a lot of first-time goers to, what I think are some relatively challenging pieces here and there. So it's really fascinating. And I feel like accessing such a such a wide swath of the population of the world even now at HGO. It's really, really, really thrilling to be a part of.
No, that's pretty amazing. Well, tell us a little bit about this upcoming season. You have a whole new theme, truly, madly,
deeply. So sort of centering like the company's asking the question, what is your opera love story? And I think that can mean so many things, and I think love is such a universal love for a partner, love for oneself, love for your country, love for your spouse, love for your friends, love for your family, and love for the art, and where did you fall in? Some people fell in love at the opera. Some people fell in love with music at the opera. I think that can mean so many different things. So that's the theme for next year. We're going to explore the many facets of what love can mean.
That's amazing. And again, you're being creative. You're finding a theme.
Yeah.
You're pulling pieces together that are unique and different.
Yeah. And that's just something that I think Cory Dustor is so brilliant at, is just finding these simple and big human truths and programming, a whole sort of vision board about these grand themes that really can make you think. So it's not only that you're just being entertained, but we're sort of, helping people broaden their own horizons intellectually too.
Well, you have a purpose and passion, your theme, and then you create beyond that. And, as we were speaking earlier, I mean, if you compare the opera in comparison to other industries, there's that common theme.
Yeah.
You have to have a purpose and passion,
Yep.
A value system around that.
Absolutely.
And then you create around that, and you look at what your audience base is desiring.
Exactly.
And it's a multifaceted creation. In addition to the production itself is multifaceted.
And I think what I like about Houston is that we've had a very, very, very devoted, loyal, and strong basis, and here at HGO, just a family that's been so loyal and so wonderful. And there is no other opera company in the United States that has the investment from its city and its community like HGO does. And it's so clear every day I come to work here that the city cares about this company and the community cares about this company. So, and one thing I like about our loyal supporters from the beginning, they also have been so welcoming to the many new people that are walking through our doors in the last couple of years. And, people had told me this, and then when I arrived and I walked through the audience, it was so inspiring because it's such a vibrant group. Everyone was so excited to be there. You really felt like this was sort of a meeting place. I don't feel like we have a lot of huge public meeting places in Houston. Where there's people everywhere all over this region. So I feel like HGO is one of these beautiful meeting places for people to share ideas, meet their friends, have an experience with their family, and see the city here.
That's amazing. What would you tell an aspiring artist, advise an aspiring artist in our audience as to how they could actually go down a journey of being an artist?
Well, I will say that I think it's all about, I think when you center in wanting to express something, when you have something, a story you want to tell, when you have a vision for a message that you want to send the world, and you always center your message, you center your expression, center what you want to say, what you want to express, how you feel about something, then I think your art shows that. And your art is always successful when it is centered in a purpose and when it is centered in a perspective. So, so as I said before, I'm the director of the Butler Studio, which is a training mechanism, a training program for very high level younger artists. And I was working as an agent for 3 years in Germany, and it's very interesting that what is getting people cast, what makes an interesting artist to the opera world in general, has shifted a lot over the last 10 years. And in Europe, I would say about 90% of the opera contracts in the world are probably in the European market, because, in Germany, every city of 50,000 people or more has an opera company, usually state funded. The German constitution has a guarantee to arts access in it. So actually, that's why my fellowship project in Germany existed, was because it was during COVID, but the Germans were sort of confronted with this contradiction. On one hand, we want to keep people safe. Their population it's the second oldest population in the world next to Japan. So they have a duty to keep their citizenry safe, and they wanted to keep them healthy. But at the same time, their constitution guarantees arts access. So how do you provide people with arts access, and theater access, live performances, which they feel are vital to the health of the society, while also people just keeping them physically healthy at the same time? So my project, the German government gave money in order to innovate and come up with a solution. And that's when we built this art center inside these greenhouses and in this workshop. And we created this whole campus of different activities, and people could be spread out. They could be a little bit inside, a little bit outside. We ended up lending, and it became sort of a full spectrum thing. We had a woodworking shop on campus. We had all these gardens, community gardens. The kids could plant one. We gave one of the greenhouses to a refugee group from Syria to grow the vegetables that they can't necessarily find in the grocery store. We put a landscape installation that kids could run around in and lay and just have a place to relax. It was really, really, really inspiring to see how problems can lead to innovation.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. But going back now to the way that things are changing for opera, in Germany now, because in Germany they are used to seeing operas. They've seen, when they've seen Traviata, each person who knows opera has probably seen La Traviata about 100 times. So the last thing they really want to see is Traviata done in a very traditional, literal sense. They always want something that's like breaking ground. And we might find that to be too inaccessible because I think in the United States, we're slightly less familiar with opera sort of as a general population. So we want to see the story told, I think, as it's meant to be told, or as it was written to be told. But they're now looking for like, okay, well, how can we do this differently? Well, they want to see something new. So the demands on the artist are growing. They'd have to be the best actors. They don't really have as much of a culture of musical theater over there like we do here on Broadway. So opera really is their music theater. So, if you're an opera singer, you first have to sing like the opera singer. You have to be an amazing artist vocally, but then you also have to move like the character. You have to act like the character. They have to believe you as much as they would a movie star on the screen. So what I'm doing now is I'm training the folks that come into my program. First and foremost, they have to be able to sing like no one else. They have to be one of the best voices. I want to hear such strong musicianship. I want to hear good vocal technique. But then beyond that, they have to be able to act well. They have to be able to move well. They have to be able to identify a character. And now with the way that the funding systems are even changing worldwide, they also have to be sort of entrepreneurs. And they have to now start to apply to fund their own projects. They have to come up with their own projects. And I think that's where things start to get exciting. And so I'm trying to teach them, one, to be the best singers, then be great stage artists, and now to be artistic entrepreneurs and innovators, because I think that's going to ensure that they have a career. And I think that their careers are going to be so interesting and diversified, and they'll be able to draw from all of these experiences together. And, what they learn on stage will inform what they do in the community, and what they do in the community will inform what they do on stage. So it's all about just, giving them as much artistic experience as possible so that then they can decide who they are as an artist and then bring that out to the world.
I love that. And that parallels so much with other industries.
Yeah, and you were talking about some of the entrepreneurship, ideals that you're talking about. I was like, oh, wow, that sounds exactly like what we're having to cultivate now in opera, in a way that maybe 50 years ago we didn't have to do that, but now it's something that you have to have those skills. You just have to have them.
Well, and I'm seeing across the spectrum, everybody has to have their personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because actually we're going to be doing some sessions on how to create a personal brand, because next year, I've got folks that are at the beginning of their artistic journey. So, they are in the process of discovering who they are as artists and what they want to express. And I think as they do that, we have to incorporate that immediately into their personal brand, because you got to stand out, you have to be unique, and you have to be memorable. And so and I think that by focusing on what that brand and what it is that you bring that is strong, what innately is your musical perspective, then I think that's where we start to find success.
Yes. And I do believe that for all of us, we have to be within our purpose and passion, because we're in that purpose and
Purpose
passion.
and passion is such a great way to put it. Purpose
Yet
and passion.
we're able to effortlessly
Yeah.
do what we need to do day in, day out. And we're happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Colin, thank you so much for joining us today and also being a part of the inaugural podcast.
Well, it's an honor to be the first guest. And come see us at HGO, everyone. And you see Ginger there. She'll be there. And I think we've got some really wonderful stories to tell.
Absolutely. And
can't wait to share with you.
if you come to HGO, then show you behind the scenes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And come see Concert of Arias. Come hear a competition.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ginger.